After years of people saying that the MCU is dead and that Marvel fatigue is kicking in, I think it's finally actually happened. The Marvels flopped very badly. Not even like a Quantum Mania situation where it's like, okay, it did alright, but it probably did not make it back its budget plus marketing costs. This movie flopped hard. And the reasoning behind why the movie flopped is somewhat interesting. It didn't flop because it was woke or whatever. People had that complaint about the first movie and it made $1 billion. It didn't flop because it was terrible. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania and hell, even Thor Love and Thunder are way worse than this movie. It wasn't terrible, it was just okay. It flopped because people don't care about Marvel anymore. People aren't interested in the characters or the stories, and they just don't want to watch the movies. This movie is nearly exactly the same quality-wise as the first Captain Marvel movie, which is just okay. It's the most mid-Marvel movie of all of them, probably. It's just going through the motions. And this one didn't even come close to making its budget back, while, like I said, the first Captain Marvel made $1 billion. The only difference between the two movies is when they were released. Captain Marvel came out at the peak of Marvel's popularity. They could have released anything and it probably would have made $1 billion. The Marvels comes out and that's not the case anymore. People actually want to watch a good movie, or at least one that capitalizes on their fan service or whatever, like Five Nights at Freddy's. And with more and more Marvel movies getting delayed or seemingly in development hell, like Blade, they're not really being anything that appealing on their 20-year plan that they always release. I think it's over. I don't see them recovering from this. But who knows? Like I said, people have been saying this for years. But enough about the possible death of Marvel. Let's talk about the movie itself. The Marvels follows Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, and Miss Marvel. All three of the characters have been altered where when they use their powers, they switch places, no matter how far away they are. They can be like a galaxy apart or whatever. And they have to fight a villain who threatens the galaxy and has a personal connection to Captain Marvel and a specific vendetta against her. So, how was the movie? Like I said, it was okay. It was one of the most, movies of all time. Should have been called the Midfuls, am I right? Which is how I felt about the first Captain Marvel movie as well. Not terrible, not particularly enjoyable, just middle of the road. Something I really did like about this movie, though, is it's only 1 hour and 45 minutes long. Marvel movies are often way too long, and in general, a lot of movies are way too long these days. I loved how short this movie was, and I think that it would not have been helped for any extra time. And I hope that future Marvel movies take notice and, cut down their movies instead of having them be 2.5 hours long. I also liked Miss Marvel. I generally find fanboy or fangirl characters in universe very annoying, but I thought she did a good job and it was an interesting relationship she had with Captain Marvel. On the other hand, Monica Rambeau is very boring. She doesn't really have a strong personality, and I really dislike Captain Marvel's characterization in this movie. In the first movie, she's kind of like a cardboard cutout. She has amnesia, so she doesn't have a very strong personality throughout the movie. I really liked her characterization in Endgame, where she's just cocky and she's just like, I'm built different, like I'm the GOAT. I wish she would have been like that in this movie. Instead, she's really quirky and awkward, which doesn't really fit, and it sort of comes out of nowhere because it's not in line with her previous characterizations, as far as I can remember. Captain Marvel is a very forgettable movie. She could have acted exactly like this. But in this movie, I did not like it. I would have much preferred the cocky, self-assured, I can destroy anyone sort of characterization. I was very worried about this movie requiring you to do homework, as a lot of people have described the new Marvel movies. I did watch WandaVision, so I am familiar with Monica Rambeau, but I did not see Miss Marvel aside from the first episode. And fortunately, this movie does a very good job of introducing the characters without relying on plot points from the shows, which is good. I was very concerned about this, that I would just have no idea what the fuck's going on because I did not watch an 8-hour TV show, but like I said, it does a very good job at being self-contained. The action in this movie is pretty terrible. It's pretty terrible in most Marvel movies. Sort of shaky cam, can't tell what's going on. which a lot of Marvel movies have that problem. The gimmick of them switching places whenever they use their powers is fun, but the action scenes are shot so incompetently that even with a clever gimmick, it doesn't really elevate them into being incredibly enjoyable. The rules with them switching places when they use their powers is kind of inconsistent as well. It seems like some of their powers they can use without switching places, but whatever, it's not that big of a deal. It's like, who cares? Nick Fury was a big part of the first Captain Marvel movie, so they wanted to have him be a big part of this movie as well, but he really doesn't have anything to do. He just has this like subplot that's completely pointless, and I think if the movie would have been better served if they completely cut it, if they put in more of the Marvels doing stuff and building chemistry and stuff like that. The acting from Brie Larson and Tiona Paris, who plays Monica Rambeau, are bizarrely bad in like the emotional scenes. It does not come off as genuine, and I haven't seen Tiona Paris in anything. I'm sure she's a fine actor. I remember being fine in WandaVision. Brie Larson is a very talented actor as well, so I am surprised that they would have such a poor performance in this movie in the emotional scenes. I would chalk it up to bad directing because the director does not have a lot of experience, especially with a big budget, sci-fi movie like this, so she could have been overwhelmed. And also she directed the Candyman remake, which I thought was pretty terrible and also had kind of bad acting, so she could just be not the best director at this point in her career. I thought the villain's performance was pretty good as like this over-the-top campy villain. Her backstory is really stupid and I dislike it, and she doesn't really have a lot to do in the movie, but I did like the performance by Zawe Ashton. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I don't really have a lot to say about the movie. I could complain about stuff more, but it's mostly just little things. Like I said, it's incredibly middle of the road, going through the motions Marvel movie, and that's the type of movie Marvel can't afford to make anymore. I mean, it's better than the previous 3 Marvel movies by a significant margin, which I all thought were terrible, especially Quantumania, which is the worst Marvel movie I've seen, which I still have not seen Eternals and Black Widow, so those could be worse. I wouldn't recommend this movie, but I also wouldn't recommend not watching it. I mean, if you're really interested and you want to watch it. You'll probably think it's okay, because it is just an okay movie. Anyway, what's your favorite Marvel movie? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe for more content. Bye bye!